The rain came down in sheets that night, cold and relentless, like the world itself was crying for me. I stood on the front porch of the only home I'd ever known, my fingers frozen around the handle of a single black suitcase. Water streamed off my hair, soaked my thin hoodie, and pooled inside my worn sneakers. I was 19. Just 19. And I had nowhere left to go. Dad had been gone only 3 weeks. A sudden heart attack at his desk, the doctor said. One minute he was promising me we'd travel after I finished college. The next, silence. I thought Karen, my stepmother, would be the one person who understood my pain. She'd only been in our lives 2 years, all sweet smiles and homemade cookies while Dad was alive. The moment the coffin went into the ground, the mask slipped. She sold the house without telling me, signed the papers, pocketed the money, and changed the locks while I was at the library, trying to study through my grief. My phone lit up with her text. House sold. Don't come back. This was never your home anyway. I read it over and over, rain mixing with the tears I couldn't hold back. My hands shook so hard I dropped the phone. It cracked on the concrete like my entire world. I begged. I cried on that porch until my voice gave out. Karen opened the door just long enough to shove the suitcase at me and say, "You're not blood, Emma. You're just a reminder. He never really loved me." Then the door slammed. The lock clicked, and I was alone in the pouring rain with $23 in my pocket and a broken heart that would never heal the same way. The next weeks blurred into a nightmare I still can't fully remember without trembling. I slept on park benches until the police moved me on. I stayed one night in a shelter that smelled of bleach and despair. But the curfew and the stairs made me feel smaller than the rain had. I tried odd jobs, washing dishes until my fingers bled, delivering food on a borrowed bike until the rain made the streets too slick. Every dollar went to cheap noodles and a cheap phone plan so I could keep looking for work. One freezing evening, huddled under a bus stop with my suitcase as a pillow, I scrolled through my phone with numb fingers. An ad popped up. Abandoned Victorian. Needs TLC. $5 minimum bid. Back taxes only. The photo showed a faded white house on the edge of town, windows boarded, ivy crawling up the walls like it was trying to hide something. It looked haunted. It looked impossible. But it was a roof. And $5 was all I had left in the world after bus fare. I bid without thinking twice. My heart hammered as the auction closed at midnight. I won. For $5, I became the owner of 47 Maple Hollow Lane, an abandoned house the town had forgotten for 12 years. I laughed through my tears on that bench. It wasn't a home. It was a miracle I didn't deserve. Yet. The first night I stepped inside, the smell hit me like a wall damp wood, old paper, and something faintly sweet, like forgotten lavender. Dust danced in the thin beam of my cheap flashlight. The floorboards groaned under my weight as if the house itself was waking up from a long sleep. No electricity. No heat. Just me. A sleeping bag. And the wind whistling through cracks in the walls like it was whispering secrets. I cried myself to sleep that night on the dusty parlor floor, wrapped in the only blanket I owned. But something strange happened in the dark. I woke to the soft creak of footsteps upstairs. I froze, heart pounding. No one else was here. I told myself it was the wind. I told myself it was my imagination. Yet every night after that, the house seemed to breathe with me, boards settling, doors clicking shut on their own. A faint scratching behind the wallpaper in the upstairs hallway. I started fixing what I could with whatever I found in the shed out back. Old nails, a rusted hammer, paint cans that had hardened at the bottom. I scrubbed the kitchen until my arms ached. I taped plastic over broken windows and lit candles I bought for $1 at the corner store. Slowly, the house stopped feeling like an enemy and started feeling like maybe a friend. One rainy afternoon, while prying up a loose floorboard in the bedroom to fix a squeak, my fingers brushed something cold and metal. A small tin box, sealed with tape yellowed by time. Inside were letters, yellowed envelopes addressed to "My dearest Emma," in Dad's handwriting. My breath caught. How? He'd never mentioned this house. The first letter was dated 6 months before he died. "If you're reading this, sweetheart, something went wrong. Karen doesn't know about this place. I bought it quietly, in your name only, as a safety net. She changed after the wedding. I was scared. I made a new will. Everything the house we lived in, the savings, the investments goes to you. She forged papers. Don't trust her. My hands shook so hard the paper crinkled. I kept digging. Behind the wall panel I'd accidentally loosened while cleaning, I found a hidden safe. Inside, the original will. Notarized. Witnessed. Leaving me sole heir to everything. Bank statements showing almost $200,000 money Karen swore didn't exist. And one more document that made the floor tilt beneath me. A marriage certificate proving Karen had never legally divorced her first husband. The marriage to Dad was bigamous. Legally void. She had no claim. None. I sat there in the dust, flashlight trembling, reading the words over and over until they blurred. The footsteps I'd heard, they weren't ghosts. They were echoes of Dad walking these rooms, preparing a future for me he never got to give in person. The house I thought was abandoned had been waiting for me all along. The twist hit me like lightning the next morning when I finally called the lawyer listed in the will. Karen had known about the second will. She'd found it weeks after Dad died and burned every copy she could find except the ones he'd hidden here, in the house he bought for me in secret. The family home she sold, the money was still in an account only I could access now. She had forged signatures, lied to the courts, and tried to erase me completely. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood in the newly painted kitchen of my $5 house and felt something warm bloom in my chest for the first time since the rain. Justice wasn't loud. It was quiet, like the creak of old floorboards finally settling into place. 6 months later, I stood on the same porch where Karen had thrown me out. But this time, the sun was shining. The house was mine, again, legally returned, money restored. Karen was gone, facing charges that would keep her far away from any inheritance she never deserved. I sold the old family home and kept the little Victorian on Maple Hollow. I fixed it up with my own hands. I planted lavender in the garden because it reminded me of Dad's letters. Sometimes at night I still hear those soft footsteps upstairs. I smile now instead of freezing. They're not ghosts anymore. They're reminders that love doesn't disappear, it just waits in the walls until you're ready to find it. I was 19 when I lost everything. I'm 20 now, standing in a home that chose me back, and I finally understand. Sometimes the smallest house, bought for the smallest price, holds the biggest inheritance of all, proof that you were never forgotten, never unwanted, and always the only heir that mattered. The rain may come again, but I know how to keep the lights on now. And my heart, it's finally dry. The rain may come again, but I know how to keep the lights on now. And my heart, it's finally dry.